Hey, welcome to Intro to Programming for Business Majors. This is week one, lab one walkthrough. We're going to do our Hello World lab in our NetBeans here. Let's go ahead and let's hop over into NetBeans for Java. If you're at home using a different different IDE, go ahead. You just might have a little different directions on it. Okay. I've already got mine open, so let's go ahead just to make life easier. If you got some projects you want to close out, you got them in here, you can just go here and hit close here. So it's down here, close. Just let's just make it nice and clean. So we'll close it out like you just opened and nothing happened. Uh, you probably won't have any of these recent projects popping up on yours if you just first opened this. Let's sort of treat this like you've never done this before. So here we go. We got NetBeans. Like I said, you probably won't have any of this. So let's just go ahead. Now we've got two pluses here. We have a file, then we have a project. Or you can go up here and you can go to new project. Either one. What we want to go to is new project. So it will be the second button here. And then for the projects, you're going to want to scroll down to look for Java with Ant. Now, notice there's stuff below, but I'm not highlighting any of those. I'm just clicking on Java with Ant, and then I'm picking Java application. Go ahead, hit next. And we can call this our first application. You can call this Hello World, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to call it, so we'll call it Intro to Programming for Business Majors. So we'll call it IP, as we'll call everything, IPB, and then I'll just call this Lab 1. Okay. So this is going to be our Hello World lab. Now you can notice it's creating what's called a main class. And if you watch the videos, classes are one of the functionalities you're going to have in Java. So we'll go ahead and finish. It's going to create our project for you. As you see, it's doing its little chum down there. Then it creates our project and it creates the first class of it. And we have this code over here. I'm going to go ahead and pop over so we can get a better view of the code and it's not so small for you. All right, so let's start, especially because this is a beginner's course. We're starting here. This should be your first program ever in Java, okay? So I want to start by saying do not even worry about this. This stuff, you see these little dashes and asterisks, this means remark. It means it's comments. Java's not even going to read this. It doesn't care. This package thing, this is all because we built a project, and that's because we're using NetBeans. So notice it's named right after what I called it, Lab 1. And then we have so this all stuff is just all going to be populated by NetBeans for you. Don't worry about it. Just leave it alone. You don't have to worry about it. You can put your name here for author. Anything you want to write in here, you can put. As long as it grays out, nobody will care. All right, this is where we've got to start. So every program, at least in this class, to think at the basic level, has to have two things minimum. Has to have a public class, and the public class must be named the same thing as your Java file. If you look up here, IPB Lab 1 Java, notice they're also, keep in mind that this is case sensitive. These have to match. So you have to have a public class, and then you have to have a main method, which this is down here. So again, this is always already populated for you. So you put your public class, then you notice you have these curly brackets. These curly brackets represent everything within the public class. These sets of brackets here represent everything within the main method. Don't worry about the word public static void, the string art. Don't worry about any of this. We'll talk about it later. All this string and args, this is telling you, this is a parameters you can pass through. And again, we'll get into that later. As far as you're concerned, you don't have to worry about anything. Leave this completely alone, as worded right there. Public static void, main, as it's built, that's fine. This is where we're going to go to. This is where we make our code. Okay, so we can start with a very simple thing. I'm just going to go to the next line, and we're going to start with system.out. I'm saying I want it to output, and I'll use a command called print line. And we'll get into what this system.out, all this stuff is later in the class. For right now, let's just type in the phrase hello world. Notice this X thing, I didn't put it in there. That came from our friends here at NetBeans. They're putting it all together. So you go there, put your semicolon there, then you can just right click the entire thing and say run file. Okay. And what you should get is a hello world. Okay, built successfully 12 seconds. All right, we kind of briefly went over in the first class too the idea of some variables up here. So we're going to start with that idea too. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to put it up above here. We're going to put another line up top, and we're going to put in the phrase string. Notice I have to be capital on the string, and we'll get into that while later because string is a class. It's a whole thing. Okay, going to name our variable now. We'll just name the variable phrase. Okay, equals, and then in double quotes, we're going to put hello world. But this time I want you to put 2 exclamation points after it, so you know we're going a little different. But put your semicolon there, so we know we've completed a line. You get a little error here. The error is here saying I've built this variable, but I haven't used it yet. So now we're going to get rid of the quotes in here, and we're just going to change it to phrase. We're going to put the variable name down in there. So we'll just go phrase and enter there. So now we're assigning the phrase hello world bang bang with the phrase. So now when I run this and I look down here, I get hello world bang bang. My build was successful. One last thing to kind of go over before I sign out, because this is a quick one. If for some reason you go and you do that run file and you're not getting, and it's not changing, like whatever your last results were, you're not getting the plus. I mean, I'm not getting this ... I'm getting just hello world, the old one I couldn't get rid of. It could be a memory issue, and one thing you can fix on that is to go up to your library and just go clean and build. Go up to your project, clean and build the project. It'll restart, it'll reload the whole thing. It kind of does like you'll get a bunch of messages down there. Build was successful. And then now when you run it, it'll just recompile again and you won't have this problem. But so if you run into compiling issues, I would always recommend just trying that as your first effort. When I say compiling issues, not if you get an error, then look at your code. Your code's where I messed up. But if your code's responding like it's still got the old information, that's a good way around it. All right. Well, that's it. This is lab 1. I'll make sure we get one for each one's coming forward, but look forward to talking to you guys next week.